Well, I guess we will get into things then. Without further ado, howdy, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyle the Rage Cage Schneider.
And I'm Dakota Sailor.
You didn't laugh. I see you smiling, but you didn't laugh. See, when I gave my name to Isaac, of course he just started chuckling because he thought that was just the funniest thing he'd ever heard. But, that's Isaac, and, well, you're you. Anyway, this is a special episode of the New Deal Network podcast. We will be talking about Blade Runner 2049. We will be giving a spoiler-free review, and then be giving a spoiler-laden, we'll just be spoiling the whole thing.
Spoilers.
Yep. But that will come later. First of all, though, how is Cuphead?
Cuphead is brutal.
That's what I hear.
Brutal, dude.
I hear it is a beautiful, beautiful game that's hard as a bag of dicks.
Oh, that's one way of putting it. It's super fun, though. Like, you can really tell, like, the artistic talent put into it. But goodness, if it's not, like, just a complete, like, it wrecks you completely.
Yeah, I'm currently watching the Game Grumps playthrough of it.
Oh, no.
And they are already stuck on... How far are you into the game? How many bosses have you fought?
I've fought 2 bosses.
Okay. Have you fought the flying one yet?
Oh, that's the one I haven't completed. No.
Okay.
That's where I stopped for the day.
That's where they're getting stuck.
Yeah, I can see why. I was like literally not even a centimeter away from like that final like flag, where it shows like your progress.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was just like, okay, that's enough for the day.
Well, I have not purchased Cuphead yet, but
$20.
I know I'm going to as soon as possible. But I have been playing Hollow Knight. Have you played Hollow Knight?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It's really, really good. Okay, you know Dark Souls, right?
Oh, the one that everybody compares to.
Yes. Here's the thing. It's actually a fair comparison this time.
Really? So it's not like Dark Souls, but with a spinny boy, like Crash Bandicoot.
No. Hollow Knight has the kind of oppressive atmosphere of Dark Souls. It has the art design in terms of it's very dour. It's ever so mildly melancholy. In some areas, it's kind of depressing. The gameplay is incredibly fun. It's addicting, it can be difficult at times, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. So look up Hollow Knight, look up the trailers for it, look up some screenshots, and it's only $15. Yeah, it's really,
15?
Really good.
Okay,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not bad.
All right, so how about we'll actually talk about what we said we were going to talk about now.
Get to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, the meat and potatoes. Or I can't think of a pun with the word replicant in it, so whatever, we'll just continue. What did you think of it?
I loved it.
Okay, if you had to give... Without giving any details, 0 out of 10 rating, what would you give it?
I'd give it a solid 9.
Nice.
I mean, like, for what it is, I'd give it a solid 9. When I was trying to think of, like, out of 10, I was thinking about maybe giving it an 8.5, but I was like, nah.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I really, really enjoyed it. God, the cinematography was amazing. We'll get into that later, obviously, but really, really pretty movie to look at. Good score, a couple missteps, but we'll get into that as well.
We'll get into that, definitely.
Yeah, overall, I would probably give it an 8, a strong 8.
I mean, it's fair. That's a fair rating.
Now, just for context, how would you rate the original, the final cut?
The final cut, probably give it like a 9.5.
Yeah, I'd give it a 10. The thing is that 2049 had a lot to live up to for me personally. Because my top 3 favorite movies, in no particular order, are American Beauty, Blade Runner: The Final Cut, and Citizen Kane. Those are my 3
That's
favorites.
pretty solid.
Amadeus is number 4, and There Will Be Blood is number 5.
I mean, it's just kind of different for me because I'm typically like a mob movie guy, or just about anything Martin Scorsese. My favorite movie is Taxi Driver. So.
Oh yeah. So like for me, I guess for you and me, I guess we're coming from different places, but for me, I was worried from the get-go because when I first heard they were making a sequel. I thought that was the dumbest idea I had ever heard in my life. They were playing around with script ideas. They went into development hell.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, whew, dodged your bullet on that one, folks.
Well, there was supposed to be a sequel that was focusing more on Deckard, but they never got it greenlit.
And then I heard...
It was based off a book. It was bad.
It was something
really
like
bad book.
Yeah. And then I heard that the director of Arrival was going to be directing, and I was like, oh, wait, I guess I'm going to have to go see it. I don't know if there's an official list of the greatest movie sequels ever made, but this one should be on there.
definitely.
Thoroughly enjoyable. I guess without going into spoilers, what were some of the strongest points for you?
I think some of the strongest things were the cinematography for one. Like, that was incredible. The acting was just on point. Like, can you think of a weak actor in that movie?
The weakest one in terms of just overall filmography was definitely Jared Leto.
You think so? You really think so?
Yeah.
I thought he knocked it out of the park.
I thought he did.
He had a monologue that was a little pointless in it, though.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job, but compared to the other actors, that was the weakest performance. That's not to mean it was a bad performance, but
compared to Robin Wright,
I liked her.
She was good, but I'm like, you're saying Robin Wright did a better job than Jared Leto.
I think she portrayed her character better than he did.
Okay, that's fair. I see where you're coming from.
That's kind of what I'm gauging it, is how well did you portray the character you were given? And I thought that he did the worst job out of the bunch, but that's not to say he did a bad job at all. I think he did a good job.
No, I don't think he did a bad job.
Yeah, but if I had to pick on the weak link, I would pick on him. And that, on some level, is also my bias, just because the last movie I saw with him in it was Suicide Squad. And
Suicide Squad, huh?
Yeah, that, whew. The less said about that movie, the better.
What a stinker.
I would give it a 3 out of 10. Do not buy.
Hey, at least he had more screen time in this movie than he did in Suicide Squad.
Oh, snap. That was a good one. That was
true.
Good one. It is true, though. Holy shit. Oh, my God. Terrible movie. Anyway, back to the good movie.
Right. Music. But one complaint. There was that one little score that just did not fit with the rest of the movie.
And which song was that?
I can't think. What is it called? I don't even know what it's called.
I would almost call it like the title theme, if you will.
Because they used it in the credits.
Yeah, they used it in the credits, and they also used it in certain like kind of sting moments when there would be a scene transition. Whenever there was a scene transition into the city itself, like deep into the city, there would usually be that sting, and it would play for 20 to 30 seconds, maybe.
Right. The rest of the score was just fantastic. It sounded and felt like that original Blade Runner. You know, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't on par, but it was in the same vein, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. He was able to kind of put his own twist, his own flair on the original soundtrack, and I think he did a good job. In a lot of ways, though, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if he copied the original score, people would just say, oh, well, you're plagiarizing someone better than you, and if he did a completely original soundtrack, they would be like,
it would have sucked.
Yeah, what the heck? This sucks. This doesn't sound anything like the original score. Why didn't you just follow the grades? So, considering what he was able to do, I think he deserves kind of a mild amount of applause for that, just because he was kind of stuck in a rough spot.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but overall, the movie's good. It's a strong.
Let's talk about that cinematography, though.
Yeah. Okay. Almost every shot in the movie, you could like cut it out of the Blu-ray and stick it on your computer as a wallpaper for like a month, and it'd be perfect. And then you could just swap it out with another random scene from the movie, and just keep doing that, and have a different screensaver and wallpaper for like a year. It's amazing, and maybe go on for 2 years if you wanted.
It was a very CGI heavy movie, but it didn't feel like a CGI heavy movie. There was only really you can look at it and you're like, okay, there's no way that exists in real life. But I can only think of like maybe one, maybe two shots in the movie that I was like, okay, that's CG. You know what I mean?
Is it, not giving anything away, but is the scene where that thing crashes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we were on the same page, because when I saw that, I was like, "Whoa! Oh my God! The CG hit the CG! Look out! Hit the deck!"
Right.
That was my thought. I was like, "Oh,
that was right in the middle of the movie too, wasn't it?"
Yeah, it was like smack dab in the middle.
That's the only weak point that I can think of as far as the CG.
It was a little more than an hour into it. I guess it was more like a third of the way into it, but yeah.
Sounds about right.
I was like, somebody get those computer technicians out of there. They're gonna get hit. Yeah, it was. That was like the one kind of sequence that kind of took me out of it, and I was like, well, you had me, and you lost me, and then they got me right back again. So
they drug me back in.
Yeah,
I got roped back into it.
Yeah, no, overall, I really enjoyed it. If you had to offer, before we get into spoilers, if you had to offer any critiques in terms of certain weak points, we brought up that one little stinger that they used a few times didn't quite fit. We brought up that one sequence where the CGI looked not that good at all. Other than that,
I read somewhere where someone was talking about how the plot was a lot like just an extended NYPD Blue episode. I can see that in a way. And the twist, like if you're an avid moviegoer and you watch it, there's certain key parts of the plot where you're like, really?
A little tropey?
Yeah, a little tropey.
Oh, we're going to be getting into that. So before we go into spoilers, did you watch the short films?
I watched the one with Jared Leto.
Okay.
It was in what 2036,
2036,
I think.
yeah. The Nexus
Yeah,
Dawn. Okay,
the
that's
one
good.
that the directing was crappy in it though. I know it was Ridley's son.
Yeah, it was a little stagnant. It was a little like the shots were pretty stagnant. I like the
Yeah,
little cast they got for it though.
it was nice, but I mean, it looked like a college student's short film.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with that, I guess we are going to jump into spoilers. This is a full-on warning. So you've been warned. All right, I'm just going to jump into my biggest problem with the movie.
All right,
That
go for it.
fucking third act plot twist with the resistance.
Oh, I hated that.
Kill me. I want to die. The prescription is death. I want a handgun and a bullet.
It's like you're watching it and you're like, okay, so like obvious. It's like Morgan Freeman's character in Oblivion,
Yes.
in a way, like that
yes.
one chick. It's just like it's been used. That trope has been used so many times, and you have all these people emerge from the darkness. It's like we have built an army, and it's like
You like
come
that?
on.
You like that, Ryan Gosling? We've been practicing that for weeks. It's the remake
so
of
lame.
It's the remake of Flashdance. It's gonna be great
That was the lamest part of the movie right there.
because it's like, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Total Recall reboot.
I didn't even bother watching that.
I did because I was morbidly curious. I was like, how badly do they mess this up? The answer is a lot, by the way. Spoiler alert. So I watched it because I was morbidly curious, and they had that. They did the whole plot twist with the resistance thing. It's like, good God. So yeah, if I had to pick one point of the movie that completely lost me for like 5 minutes to the point where I was like, this is fucking stupid. That's what it was.
It's that part.
Yep, that third act plot twist with there's a resistance movement.
How many times has that been used?
Seriously. Even in the past 10 years, that is overplayed and overused. And this actually jumps into a plot hole in the movie. This is why this scene, I hated
Makes
it.
no sense.
I hated it so much. So you saw you saw the short film.
Yeah.
So the Nexus 6s and Nexus 8s, which is like the
Are
latest
built
Tyrell
open?
model, they are made illegal. Wallace Corporation, which is mostly agriculture, grow. They get bigger. They expand in
Right.
scope. Wallace Corporation purchases all of the Tyrell Corporation's assets because the Tyrell Corporation went bankrupt when they made the Nexus models illegal.
And they made them illegal because they didn't obey.
Exactly. The last model that got made was the Nexus 8. They're like kind of more experimental. They didn't have like a lifespan or anything, like Dave Bautista's character. Spoilers. Oh, God. The reason the third act plot twist makes so little sense is because the vast majority of the replicants there are probably the Nexus Dawn models. There are only... No, wait, hang on. Oh, my God. No, there's only one that we see in that scene that's in Nexus 8. It's the lady with one eye missing.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
earlier in the movie, it's established that she's a Nexus 8 because she's like the madam, I think they call her. She's like the police chief. Ryan Gosling's like, all right, we got this guy, and like, here's his eyeball. She's like, thanks for that eyeball. I'm gonna put that on my Christmas tree. And then she's like, oh, by the way, there's these other guys that I want killed. And there's several images that flash across the screen in sequence. One of them is this person. I'm sure she's got a name. Anyway, I didn't bother to find that out or figure it out or remember it because it sucked.
Yeah.
And they... how do I even describe this? Like, all the rest of them are Nexus Dawn models. Like, the prostitute, she's a Nexus Dawn model because she just runs around the city freely. So, obviously, she's a Nexus Dawn model because they don't let Nexus 8s just run around like that. They're hunted.
Right. Now, here's the question, though. The only way that this would make sense, like the only way that all those, Nexus models that go by their own way, so to speak, is if they were also conceived.
Yeah, I guess, maybe.
But they couldn't be.
Yeah, well, the thing is that let's say that all of them are. It completely undermines the plot of the film.
What is the point of that one single character, that child? Yeah, let's just say child, even though this is a spoiler. Let's just say child. What's the point of protecting that one child when we are legion?
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, and for some reason haven't seen the movie and are watching the spoiler section, why? Go watch the movie. We are referring to the main plot line of the film, which is that Ryan Gosling is tracking down the child of Rachel and Deckard from the first movie, and at one point he thinks he's the child, but then it's revealed, oh no, it's actually a daughter, not a son, and that's the whole plot, this big investigation, this big conspiracy of, oh wow, these Nexus 8 replicants can actually reproduce, and this is like, whoa, whoa, this changes everything, bruh. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of change everything because that's like a huge advance in human evolution, but still.
Yeah, I showed them how to cover their tracks.
Yeah, if all of them like you said, if all of them were conceived, then it undermines the plot of the whole film.
Completely.
And if they aren't conceived, how are they disobeying? Because the Nexus Dawn models were specifically designed from the ground up to obey. They basically are human in every way, except for they have the 3 laws of robotics like drilled into their head 1,000 times over.
Right.
It's not explained at all. The movie's long. I'm not saying that this needs to be like a huge, like long, drawn-out scene. And far be it from me to give recommendations to the director of Sicario, An Enemy and Arrival, Prisoners, Incendies. But here we go. I would have cut that whole sequence. Just cut it. Not the whole thing,
right.
But cut most of it. Basically, cut it to where the conversation is on that cliffside or wherever it is, like the little desert area with the fire and stuff. Have the conversation take place there instead of in the sewer somewhere. Just cut that sequence, okay?
It would have worked.
Have her have like 5 people on her side. Like have it be a small operation.
That makes more sense.
And have it be more like a conspiracy, like we're going to spring this on the world. We got like 6 of us. We're going to spring this whole thing and it's going to change everything. Because an operation this important, you do not want this many people in on your conspiracy. That is one. No, I take that back. That's like 1,000 too many people. Okay, there are way too many people in that sewer. So cut that whole sewer sequence. Just have it. He gets knocked out by the bad guys. Harrison Ford's character gets dragged away. The scene changes, shifts. Deckard's gun is all dusty. You have like those 5 people scanning the area. There's of course the dog. Flashlight drift past. We see Ryan Gosling's face. Fade to black. Fade back in. Fire's crackling. He can hear the pops and the hisses. He wakes up. There's the lady with the one eye sitting by the fire. And then she basically tells him her plan, and we go from there. That's all you needed to do. You needed to cut out like 3 minutes, and the whole like twist with this resistance movement is just done away with.
Sequel, babe.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, God. I hope they don't. This is not...
yeah, that's the problem.
I would not enjoy a sequel made from that plotline because it is boring, it is tired, and it is tried out.
The third Matrix is the perfect example of why this is a bad idea.
Oh, God, yes. It's when it's a small conspiracy with a few agents, it's interesting. The second one started to lose me with this whole Zion thing, and the third one loses it even more so.
Third one's terrible.
Oh, God, I hate the third.
Second one's bad, too. The only thing that saves it is the highway chase.
Oh, that's a good action scene. There's some good action sequences in that movie. There really are.
But with Blade Runner, since this is the spoiler part, let's talk that one character, Joy.
Yeah.
Oh man, cleverly named, by the way. Yeah. But it's kind of like such a strange element to the plot, but it makes sense for Ryan Gosling's character.
Yeah.
Because he's a replicant. He's as close to real can be.
Yeah.
But it's like he doesn't want real love.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's this artificial kind of love. Have you ever seen the movie Her by Spike Jonze?
No, I haven't.
It reminded me of Her in a lot of ways. Like when he comes home and he flicks that little switch or pushes his finger on the button or whatever it is. It comes on like ding ding ding, and then she shows up. I was like, it's her! Oh my God! And if you haven't seen Her, I'm not going to give too much of the plot away, but basically Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson star in this movie, and Joaquin Phoenix basically dates an AI.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah,
because it's like a super smart AI and called Samantha, and like he dates this AI, and that's what it reminded me of. And Her is a really smart movie because it's like that's where the future's heading, because we've already got VR porn on the way. It's already kind of here, but oh boy, is it going to become in more ways than one here in like the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, I mean, people want to ignore it, but pornography is one of the best-selling industries.
Yeah.
In the States.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna. The thing is that in a lot of ways, and this is kind of what's interesting. Do you remember Betamax and VHS?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the story about that, right? Why VHS won in the end?
Yeah, porn back VHS, porn back Blu-ray. You know, it's
kind of one of those things where. It's a big industry. It makes a lot of money. There are a lot of people.
And it has a lot of influence.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is that it only makes logical sense for technology to progress that way. Where, this is going to sound really fucking funny, but like download a porn star. Unlike your little AI thing, that's the future. That's where we're heading. I think. Eventually it's going to go from VR porn to straight up more of a holographic interface. That's just where it's heading. The thing is, because this technology gets cheaper every year, hell yeah, we can have that by 2049. I don't even think
Right.
that's a bad estimate.
Well, and it's such a big critique too, because I feel like it's a critique not only on pornography, but also a critique on social media and a critique on I don't know, like what would you call it? Like not just social media, but also like game groups, which the director had been talking about in interviews. He was talking about how he's a gamer. He associates with people he doesn't even know, and it's kind of like you create your own ideal person through self-fulfilling prophecy, if you know what I mean.
Well, no, that's the whole. That's one of the many points of that subplot. I completely agree, because multiple times we see the advertisement for this AI, and it's everything you want to hear, everything you want to see, and that's how it's marketed. It's marketed like, it's better than something physical, better than something real, because it's everything you want. It's everything you want to hear, everything you want to see, and it's nothing that you don't want to hear or see. I was reminded of the ending monologue in High Fidelity. Have you seen that movie?
No.
That's also in my top 10. I think that's number 7. It stars John Cusack, and he's trying to get back with this girl. And at the end of the movie, this is like 5 minutes to the end, his ending monologue is about how he's tired of the fantasy and he wants something more real. And he's like, well, I'm interested in these kind of girls because I can, just hide away from the things that I don't want to see and I don't want to hear. You have lingerie, but you also have those shitty little pieces of cotton underwear that they clog up the dryer and they don't dry quite right, and it's just like, I don't want to deal with that. But I've gotten to the point where I actually kind of do. I'm sick of the fantasy and I want something real. So that's what it kind of reminded me of. Not the I want something real, but just the whole fantasy element, where it's like I want the fantasy, I want what I can deal with, and what I can deal with is artificial in nature. I can deal with something that tells me what I want and lets me see what I want, but don't take it too close. Like Ryan Gosling seemed just straight up uncomfortable in that sex scene, where
that was a weird scene too.
I loved it. It was really trippy, but it was
it was super trippy.
Yeah, it was like this AI is like, you need physical companionship. I can only do so much. And even the AI knows more about that than Ryan Gosling apparently. And it's like, so I phoned this person basically, and they basically merge in a way where they like kind of sync up, and it looks like her. But yeah, it's so fascinating where he looks so uncomfortable. Like he's not really into it. He's not really interested in it. It's like he's completely apathetic, I guess, in a lot of ways to it. Where he's just
totally. Yeah, it's just so weird. And you can also see that like with modern times right now, we'd rather go through like Tinder and find this person that's kind of a fiction, like for a one night stand. You like people go through there, they find somebody that fits with what they can tolerate for a moment. And then after that, they just discard them. That's all there is to it. That's why I refuse to use social media dating. But yeah, it's just strange. We don't interact with people that well anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's going to become more like that. As time progresses, it's going to become more digitized, and it's going to become less face-to-face interaction. So that was one of the interesting things about the movie. One of the parts that I really enjoyed. It's also definitely an analysis of like why people have the emotions that they have and how those emotions drive people. The first movie was definitely about what it is to be human. The central question, or one of them anyway, is like, is Deckard a replicant? And really that's like irrelevant, because it's like, do you empathize with him if he's a human? Yes, right? If you empathize with him if he's a replicant? Yes. Okay, then what's the difference? Right. If you empathize with him, if he's, natural, quote unquote, versus artificial, quote unquote, is the difference even worth discussing in the first place? So that's kind of what the first movie's about. Is it's what it is to be human, what it is to be almost kind of have a soul in a way. And they briefly touch on some of those elements in this film, but it's more about how emotions drive people and the nature of that, which I thought was great.
The most interesting moment between Kay and Joy, though, was when that first scene when he takes her out, out into the environment, and then she says something like, "I love being with you," or "love spending time with you," and he just looks at her and says, "You don't have to say that." He knows it's artificial. He knows it's fake, and he's okay with it.
Yeah. So many good little moments like that. So
great.
Little trinkets sprinkled throughout the film.
And I love how Jared Leto wasn't the primary villain, or else that would have really tainted the movie.
Yeah.
That what's her face? That other replicant.
Yeah.
Proved to be a very formidable foe.
Yeah. This movie has made me so ready to play Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my God. Have you, heard anything about that game? Oh, my god, it's gonna be so good, dude. You know CD Projekt Red, right? Like the guys who made the Witcher series.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making that game. Apparently, the
Okay.
open world is 4 times bigger than Witcher 3.
Really?
I'm so ready, dude. I am so ready.
That's insane.
Apparently, there are rumors that they want to develop a system where you can export your character data and play the Cyberpunk 2077 tabletop RPG with the character you create in game.
You were telling me about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'm so ready. So, like that was my
That's interesting.
that was my first thought after getting out of the theater. I was like, whew, that was a good movie. All right, I'm ready for Cyberpunk 2077 now. I want to play it.
Now, I got a question for you about Jared Leto's character.
Hmm.
Is he a replicant?
Oh man, I don't know.
I mean, honestly, what if he was one of those last Nexus models?
Like a Nexus 8?
Yeah, that like is the perfect. What if it was trying to go from creating a replicant through an organic process?
Yeah. Well, that would
the undetectable. He doesn't have any eyes.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's very interesting because he's blind, so I guess their cataracts or whatever are so just completely developed. There would be no way of testing him. Like the Voight Comp test, you need an eye to do it, and he's got eyes, but they ain't really there. So
No.
It's funny to think about. Once again, it's relatively irrelevant to the overall plot, but it is an interesting little tidbit to think about. That's for sure.
Is it though? I was talking to a friend of mine who was thinking about it. He hasn't seen the movie yet, but he saw that scene. And if he was actually a replicant and he was producing all these replicants, he literally is a god. It's not a god complex that he has that you think about through the movie where he's making all these references to scripture and talking about like a heavenly realm.
Mm-hmm.
He is replicant God, if that were the case.
Yeah, I think it would also be kind of fun because it would kind of explain why there was a resistance in the first place.
Right.
Because if he's the one designing the Nexus Dawn models and he himself is the Nexus 8, it would totally make sense as to why they have more free will than he said there was. So that would kind of like remove the plot point. I still hate the Resistance plot line, but it would make more sense.
Yeah, but it would make it make more sense.
It would make more sense that way, yeah. Yeah, no, I overall really enjoyed the film.
Agreed.
One other thing, I'm torn on this. I feel like there wasn't enough action, but yet there was plenty. Like, there were enough action beats, but they didn't go quite the way I would have liked them to have gone, in a way.
I think it was well balanced for what it was, because I didn't go into Blade Runner, like, I didn't want to go watch it for the action. I wanted to watch it for a story.
That's true.
If that makes sense.
That's true.
Because when I think of Blade Runner, I don't really think too much about the action sequences in the original 80s version.
No.
I think about, the way that the layout of the city looked, and I think about just that whole environment, the tears in rain speech.
Yeah.
The action, I mean, it's there. I mean, it's part of it, but to me, that's not what Blade Runner is.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is because the action scenes that are there are good. They're well done, and they're well executed. The sound design's great. But I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more refinement in terms of, like, maybe seeing a little bit more. Not a bunch more, but just a little bit more. So, for example, in the sequence in the scrapyard, he shoots like 4 guys, or it's like 3 or 4 guys in quick succession, and then the Wallace Corporation gets involved. Bad replicant girl starts shooting missiles, and I'm like,
right.
Okay, you didn't get the 3 kill streak required for the drone strike, all right? I know how modern warfare works, lady. You are what's called a cheater. So he shoots a few guys, and I'm like, okay, now the fight's going to be on, because these guys don't have guns. Not a lot of them, anyway. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a throwdown. We're going to see some cool action. It's going to be like hand-to-hand combat. And then it doesn't happen. It's a really mild complaint. It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like to see Ryan Gosling throw down on some dudes. I don't know.
Then you'd ask, like, was the action good enough in Drive? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, where sometimes movies aren't really designed for big action beats, and it's not that big of a deal. But in terms of modern audience conventions, I think it would help keep people in the seats and help them be more interested. Because if you don't know, this movie's not doing well in theaters.
No, not at all. And they advertise it like it was an action movie, which was a very, very dumb idea.
Yeah, the weekend box office is in, and it's like 38 million or something. That's not much at all. It's not like a total flop, but it is not doing well. So time will tell, how well this movie does. But I think a little bit more on the action side, just a hint more on the action side would have been good.
But you know me, I like a good slow burner.
Oh, no, I love a slow burner. Like, seriously, one of these days we're going to watch The Witch, and then we're going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
It's so good. It's so good.
We're going to have to talk about Stranger Things Season 2 when that comes out, too.
Oh, Stranger Things.
Love it.
So good.
Love it.
So good. Some of the best child actors of all time. Anyway.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, no, that's what I would say. Is it's just I would have liked it if there had been just a couple little hints of action, just a couple more. Because like the other sequence when he's in the high rise, the guy comes behind him with the gun. He hits him really fast. Gun fires down. He pulls his arm up. The other guy makes him fire his gun twice. Hits those other two guys. Bam! Knocks that guy out. And then he gets his ass kicked immediately. And I'm like, okay, how about we throw like 2 or 3 more guys in the room and have him like get in a little gunfight with those guys before he gets the shit kicked out of him. Just like add 30 more seconds. I just want a little bit more. Once again, not a big complaint.
I left happy with it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not something that makes me dock points. I'm still going to complain about it a little bit, like I'm doing, but it's okay. It ain't bad. It's the action is theirs.
Yeah.
I think that you go see the movie for the visuals. Ryan Gosling, who is a great leading man. The mystery is interesting. The plot has a couple cool little twists and turns. It's great. Ryan Gosling's arc is actually really good.
Honestly, though, it's a 90-minute plot in an almost 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
But it's Blade Runner. The visuals are great. It takes a lot of time to just show the landscape, and I am fine with that.
Oh, no, it's beautiful. Although I will say that Deckard is a better detective than Ryan Gosling. A lot of people
better.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, Ryan Gosling's a better detective because he actually does detective work," and I'm like, "Bitch, please."
Enhance.
45 on the right. Enhance. Stop. All right, let's do a live audiobook reading of that infamously amazing and nail-biting scene. Parentheses. Noises on the outside. It's like driftly drapes across the wall. Anyway.
Give me a hard copy of that.
Give me a hard copy. 1980s vision of the future was amazing. But no, the thing is that he
Polaroid too.
He follows.
Loved it.
He was so good. He follows the trail of breadcrumbs in the original really well. He follows it very quickly. He does the one cop test on Rachel. He investigates Tyrell. He immediately jumps from there to just connecting the dots. It's a pretty quick sequence of events because the movie's only like, what, an hour and 50 minutes long?
Hour 57, yeah.
So he gets like everything done very quickly. Ryan Gosling dicks around a lot more than Deckard does. Hey, once again, is it a big problem? No, it's not a big problem at all. It's a great movie. Go watch it. Go support Denis Villeneuve is a great director. But once again, I'm going to bitch about it a little bit because I would have preferred if Ryan Gosling was a bit of a better detective. Once again, if you
that's fine. He's not Deckard.
Yeah, because if you shorten the scenes a little bit and add a few more steps in the mystery, it makes his line in the third act make more sense and have more impact. Because when he's like, Harrison Ford's like, "I had your job once," and then Ryan Gosling's like, "Well, times were simpler then." And I'm like, maybe.
Ryan Gosling's still going. Enhance.
Yeah, it's like, okay, come on. If times were simpler back then, like, I don't know. It's just like that's a fair thing to say, I guess. But you haven't really shown me that you're like the better detective out of the two. So
right.
Decker's the better detective. I'm sorry, but
obviously
people who say that are so wrong. Like, because here's the thing. Like, okay, then he does that thing where he's like trying to get a bead on that lady with the snake. Like when that goes tits up, he just murders her immediately.
Right.
Like he when he fucks up, he ties up his loose ends in the same scene. Like he's like, "Oh shit, I fucked up. I'm gonna chase this lady and shoot her twice in the goddamn chest." All right,
yeah,
mission accomplished, boys. Let's go home.
Well, then it's also like, with Ryan Gosling's character, it took him all that time to unravel all this that Harrison Ford character in a way, kind of brought to be. And he had to have it explained to him.
Yeah.
He literally had to have exposition, like an expository scene, to explain all of this to him because he still couldn't grasp it to that point. So obviously Deckard's the better detective.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other misstep. This review is all over the place, but I like that we're just kind of talking about the movie.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The marketing was dumb. You mentioned
it's garbage.
You mentioned it earlier, how they marketed it like an action film, and it isn't really an action film. I'm going to take it one step further and say they should not have revealed Harrison Ford at all.
No.
Because the thing is, if the trailers were just with Ryan Gosling and the new characters, it would be so awesome.
Could you imagine?
You as the audience is like, okay, Deckard and Rachel are in this movie a fair amount, even though they're not shown. The mystery's about them. Okay, this is getting interesting. I wonder how this is going to go. Kraft lands the bridge. He's looking for somebody, but we're not quite sure who is the audience. We think it might be Deckard, but it's like, well, we haven't seen Harrison Ford in the trailers. We haven't seen him in the promotional materials. So is it really Harrison Ford? Maybe he didn't want to do the movie. He's walking, slow soundtrack. He's creeping around ruins and the statues. He walks into the hotel, hits the piano key, little dog, and then we hear Harrison Ford's voice, and it's just like, oh my God, they got Harrison Ford. That would have been such a holy shit moment. It would have been amazing.
Right. And it just takes away from that scene because literally, if you remember, we were sitting there in the theater, he walks in there and I just turned to you and was like, oh, this is where he's going to meet Harrison Ford.
Yeah, because like we've already...
It's just, what's the point of that long drawn out scene? We're like, okay, this is where he comes in.
Yeah, it's like... they could have done it a little bit better. It's a lot like, the PT, the playable trailer for the Silent Hills game that got canceled? You know about that, right, with Guillermo del Toro? Imagine, if you will, that they released PT and said, this is a little kind of pre-release thing for the Silent Hills game Guillermo del Toro is making with Norman Reedus. That would have sucked so bad.
Right.
Because the thing is, the awesome thing about PT is, one, it's a good game. Two, it has scary moments. But three, you have no idea what it's promoting or what it's marketing until you beat the game. And then you see that little trailer where Norman Reedus is walking out on the street, camera pans up, it shows his face that's been mocap, and you're like, holy shit, that's Norman Reedus. You don't even need to know that it's him, because the mocap is really, really good. So it's clearly him. This is Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, Silent Hills, and it's like, holy shit, I've been playing the Silent Hills demo this whole time. That's amazing. I feel the same way about Blade Runner 2049. It would have been way cooler if we were like, oh my God, Deckard was in this movie the whole time. Not just in like vocally, like with like audio tracks and stuff, but they actually got Harrison Ford. That's so cool.
Right.
Big misstep.
I agree.
Yeah. The marketing could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
How good do you think this movie's going to do overall, though? Because the international market is big.
It'll save it.
You think it will?
I think the international, it'll say. I mean, that's what saved Alien Covenant.
Yeah, that's what also saved Warcraft.
I didn't even bother with that, man.
I didn't either. I knew it was going to suck. But the thing is, I don't know. It'll be interesting because the thing is, Star Wars, for an example, did not do well in China. But Blade Runner is an interesting little IP because the Chinese, by and large, they didn't get to see the original when it was in theaters because that just wasn't a thing back then. The thing is, international markets are so huge right now, I don't know how well it's going to do in various markets around the world in which they didn't get to see the original. That's the only thing I'm a little bit curious about. Is on the one hand, I want to say, yeah, it's going to do great. But by that same token, I'm like, well, it might not, actually, because it's a sequel to a movie that the audience never got to see, a lot like Star Wars.
Kind of makes me think of what they did with the second Mad Max.
Yeah. So, because they kind of retitled a little bit and they rebranded it just a little bit, just to kind of try to make it fly in somewhere else.
The only thing that makes that tough is Blade Runner is a must before you could even consider watching 2049, or none of it makes sense.
I'm going to argue with you here. I think it actually is okay for you not to see the original.
It doesn't make sense not to.
Well, I would say that you should watch the original before you watch 2049, but it isn't necessary. The reason I say that is because the important plot beats of the original, they go over. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the original isn't as important to the events of the film because of the blackout. The blackout that happened in 2022, and the records all got scratched. A lot of the stuff that happened in the first movie got erased in the first place. So when we hear Officer Deckard, if you're a fresh, just straight off the cuff, just I'm walking in to go see this movie, I've never even heard of this before, let's see what it's got to offer. And you hear Deckard's voice, and you hear Rachel's voice, and it's like, it's clear that they're the ones being investigated. It's clear that the bones are Rachel's. It's clear that she's a replicant. It's clear that, it's clear that Ryan Gosling's a replicant. It's clear what's going on. The title crawl explains why the Nexus 8s are being hunted. It explains that Ryan Gosling's a Blade Runner. Everything is laid out fine. I don't think it's necessary to watch the first movie, but it is important. That's my thing.
I just feel like in order to understand the entire heart of it, you have to watch Blade Runner. Or else you don't understand why there's this eye opening up at the beginning of it and why there's so much focus on the environment that it's located in.
I'm gonna.
Or even the philosophy, you know.
You brought up another thing that I'm gonna bitch about. So here we go. That eye was stupid. It didn't need to be in the movie. The only reason it was in the movie is to connect with the first one. Like, ooh, look at this. The first movie opened with a shot of the eyes. Here we
But her
are.
eyes were green. See? Come on, man.
I don't know. It was lame. Just because like it didn't connect with anything. Like, okay, it's an eyeball. Who cares? It's a fucking eyeball. I don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Okay, then.
It's like, here's the thing, because eyes and hands feature prominently in the first movie, they do not in this movie. There are elements of the eyes and there are elements of the hands, but they are not a big motif like they are in the first movie. It's not the same thing.
I think they really messed up though, because they took out just such an important element from the original. They needed a narration.
Oh, damn. I don't know why he let me live. Fuck, I don't want to record this. Let me out.
Wasn't there that one scene where it's kind of like, sushi?
It rivals Spotlight with like the greatest misread of all time. I love Michael Keaton. He's one of my top 5 favorite actors, but goddamn is that read terrible in the movie Spotlight. That trailer, all of you, go watch the Spotlight trailer. That's what I need you guys to do. Spotlight. It's just like, all right, Michael, can we get another read out of that, please? That was not very good. Spotlight. It's just,
Geostorm.
Okay, let's talk about the trailers. You know what? We've talked about the movie. About the movie. I liked it. I gave it an 8. You gave it a 9. Go see the movie. It's great. All right, let's go talk about those fucking trailers.
Oh, they were garbage.
They were fucking awful. Geostorm. Directed by Michael Bay and Jerry Bruckheimer and fucking like Roland Emmerich. Like they all had a fucking orgy, and that's what Geostorm is. Here's the thing though. If the theater was empty, I would totally go watch it with friends and riff the shit out of it.
The offer's open.
Oh, dude. Like, I would love to go see the movie with you.
I go watch it like a Monday or like a Tuesday or like a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to be in there.
But like after it's been out for like 3 weeks.
We have to.
There's like no one who'd be in there. It'll be amazing. Pacific Rim 2, I liked the original. You didn't like the original. Let's talk about that. Why didn't you like it?
Man, it's been so long since I watched it. It was just kind of like, it got to the third act and I just wasn't feeling it. Like, I just wasn't into it at all. It wasn't memorable to me. And like, literally, I was at a friend's house and we were watching it. We got to the third act. I was like, all right, man, let's just turn it off. I hated it.
Okay. So that is a strong. If you rated it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it? I would give it a 7.
I'd just give it a meh.
A meh, so like a 5, basically.
That's all it was to me. I didn't understand the hype.
Okay. You know why? It was a Mobile Suit Gundam movie without Mobile Suit Gundam in the title. Because it was basically like, let's make an anime live action, and they fucking did it, and it was amazing in that regard.
All right.
Because it was robots kicking monsters, and at one point, dude, okay, I'm sorry, but you're wrong about this. The robot picks up a fucking tanker and hits a fucking monster into a building with it. Hello.
I don't remember anything about the movie. I forgot Idris Elba and Charlie Day were even in it. Like
this is the Academy Award speaking. Can you have all of our awards for that scene alone? He picks up a tanker ship, like one of those big fucking tankers. He picks it up and uses it as a baseball bat, and he goes all Negan on that shit like he's fucking Asian. For those of you that haven't seen Walking Dead, I'm sorry you're not knowing what I'm talking about, but, you know, he dies, Glenn dies.
For those of you who haven't seen The Walking Dead, you're lucky.
Glenn dies. And he picks it up like a baseball bat and just, And I'm like, hell yeah. I screamed in the theater. I was like, fuck him up. It was so great.
I don't know. It's just, I don't like big robot stuff anymore. Transformers ruined it for me.
That is true.
Transformers is garbage.
The sequel trailer, John Boyega's in it. He's cool. He's awesome.
I like John Boyega.
I love that he is the like sci-fi it boy. It's amazing. It's a miracle from heaven. He needs to be in all sci-fi films because he's got so much charisma. He like in Star Wars, say what you will, you know, Rey and Mary Sue, it recycles from episode 4, whatever. Those are all valid criticisms, but goddamn, Boyega, man, Boyega. Just represent, dog. He's a hero. Him and Oscar Isaac have so much chemistry on screen. I couldn't help but smile, and I was almost tearing up. I was like, this is so goddamn...
Did you see that?
This is so goddamn beautiful. I'm crying a little bit. Like, it's so beautiful. So I love that
Love it.
he's in it. I love that he's in like all these sci-fi films. It's beautiful.
Absolutely love it.
What about the other trailers though? Besides Pacific Rim 2, that was like the biggest trailer.
Let's see what else. Ready Player One.
Yeah,
Mm.
that could be good. That could be interesting.
It's got a lot of potential.
It has a lot of potential. Steven Spielberg's solid. He's not the golden boy he once was. The big fucking giant was
But
a
this
big
is him in
fucking
his
bomb.
element. This is his, and that's Steven Spielberg's element.
It is his element. Steven Spielberg is in his element. But BFG bombed, bro. That was based off a book. It bombed hard. And it wasn't even because it was a bad movie. It was just because people didn't really want to see it. It was a decent movie. It was like mediocre.
Mm.
But he's not
I can't think of any other trailers.
There was the riff tracks for...
Oh, yeah. We'll have to do that.
Yeah, the Romero film, the Living Dead film, which is great. Classic black and white, Coming to Get You, Barbara. It's great. There was another...
We'll have to watch American Made.
Yeah, we'll be watching American Made next week. We'll get our thoughts on that. Oh, God. Yeah, the trailers were pretty uneventful overall. Most of them I can't even remember. Like, the movie was what I went to go see anyway, so...
Yeah.
I guess, any final thoughts on 2049? Anything you can think of that maybe you didn't think of before?
It just makes me want to go back and watch each version of Blade Runner again, since I've got all 8 versions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be a thing. Anything you can think of?
No. I would say that it doesn't reach the majesty of the first.
No.
It does a fantastic job of trying to reach those heights. It doesn't simply recycle the ideas and the concepts of the first one. It kind of does its own thing while being respectful to the property.
It's about as good as it can get.
The team should be commended for their job, and it's one of the best sequels to come out of at least the past decade, if not of all time. It should definitely be in the top 10 probably. I need to stew on it to make sure that I stand by that statement, but knee-jerk reaction is it's very good, and it does belong in that kind of category.
My rating's probably going to lower after time. It typically does.
Yeah. Mine probably will as well. I predict this movie will sit at a 7.5 for me, which is a good score.
That is a good score.
And the thing is that earlier I said Pacific Rim is a 7. That doesn't mean these movies are equal at all, though. I want to make that abundantly clear. It just means that I take each movie that I see on its own merits, and I gauge it. Every movie starts out at a 5 out of 10 for me. Every good thing it does that I really like, I bump it up a star. Every bad thing it really does, I bump it down a star. And I kind of like juggle back and forth throughout the whole film, and that's where the movie rests. You know, after repeated viewings, I have a feeling it'll go down a little bit to a 7.5, but overall, great movie.
Agreed.
Alrighty, well, I guess that is going to do it for us. I thank you for joining us on this episode of the New Deal Network. Again, I am your host, Kyle, and hope you guys have a good day. Bye.